Pro boxer insults an overweight nurse, then discovers she saved his life. The crowd roared as lights flashed across the packed stadium. Marcus the Hurricane Hayes, a rising star in the world of professional boxing, stood in the center of the ring, his arms raised in victory. At 28 years old, Marcus had climbed the ranks with his raw talent, charisma, and unrelenting confidence. But outside the ring, his confidence often veered into arrogance. The cameras loved Marcus and he loved them back. As he basked in the adoration of his fans, he grinned at the reporters circling the ring, eager for a soundbite. "I'm unstoppable," Marcus declared, sweat dripping down his face. "Nobody can touch me. This is just the beginning." What Marcus didn't realize was that his life was about to take an unexpected turn. Later that night, Marcus was rushed to the hospital after collapsing in his locker room. He had felt a sudden, sharp pain in his chest, followed by dizziness and shortness of breath. His trainer, David, didn't take any chances and called for an ambulance. In the ER, a team of nurses sprang into action. One of them was Sarah Miller, a seasoned nurse known for her calm demeanor and expertise. Sarah had been working double shifts for weeks, but when she saw Marcus being wheeled in, she pushed aside her exhaustion and got to work. "Chest pains and possible arrhythmia," the paramedic reported as they transferred Marcus to the gurney. Sarah nodded, quickly assessing the situation. "Let's get him on a monitor and run an EKG. Prep a blood draw for cardiac markers." Marcus groaned, barely conscious, as the team moved efficiently around him. Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're in good hands, Mr. Hayes. We'll take care of you." When Marcus finally regained consciousness, he found himself in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and IVs. His head was pounding and his chest ached. As he groggily opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Sarah checking his vitals. "Good to see you awake," Sarah said with a warm smile. "How are you feeling?" Marcus blinked at her, his confusion quickly giving way to irritation. "What happened? Why am I here?" "You collapsed after your match," Sarah explained. "It looks like you had a cardiac episode, possibly brought on by dehydration and overexertion. We're still running tests." Marcus scowled, glancing at Sarah's name badge and then at her figure. "A nurse, huh? You don't exactly look like someone who knows a lot about fitness." Sarah's smile faltered for a brief moment, but she maintained her professionalism. "My job is to help you recover, Mr. Hayes, not to discuss my appearance." "Yeah, well, maybe you should think about hitting the gym yourself," Marcus muttered, turning his head away. David, who had been sitting in the corner of the room, stood up abruptly. "Marcus, that's enough," he said, his tone sharp. "This woman just saved your life. Show some respect." Sarah held up a hand to stop David. "It's all right," she said calmly. "I'm used to dealing with difficult patients." But as she left the room, her composure slipped for just a moment. Marcus's words stung, but Sarah reminded herself that her work wasn't about receiving gratitude, it was about saving lives. The next day, Marcus's test results came back, and the news wasn't good. The doctor explained that he had a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a genetic heart disorder that made his heart work harder than normal. If left untreated, it could lead to serious complications, or even sudden death. "You're lucky you collapsed when you did," the doctor said. "Your nurse and the ER team acted quickly, and that made all the difference." Marcus frowned, still processing the diagnosis. "So what does this mean for my career?" The doctor hesitated. "It's too early to say. We'll need to run more tests and monitor your condition closely. For now, you'll need to rest and avoid strenuous activity." The thought of stepping away from boxing, even temporarily, was unbearable for Marcus. His career was everything to him. But as the days went by and he remained in the hospital, he began to realize just how close he had come to losing it all. Sarah continued to care for Marcus during his stay, despite his earlier insult. She was kind and professional, ensuring he had everything he needed. Marcus, however, was distant and dismissive, his frustration over his condition manifesting as irritability. But one evening, as Marcus sat alone in his hospital room, he overheard two nurses talking in the hallway. They were discussing Sarah. "Did you hear about what she did last week?" One nurse said. "She stayed late to help with a critical patient, even though she was already exhausted from a double shift. "She's amazing," the other nurse replied. "And after everything she's been through, losing her husband, raising 2 kids on her own, and still showing up here every day with a smile? She's a real hero." Marcus's ears perked up. He hadn't known anything about Sarah's personal life, and the thought of her enduring so much while still dedicating herself to her work made him feel a pang of guilt. The next morning, Marcus found himself reflecting on the conversation he'd overheard about Sarah. He'd been so wrapped up in his own frustrations and ego that he hadn't taken a moment to consider the person behind the scrubs. Guilt began to gnaw at him, but he wasn't sure how to address it. Later that day, Sarah came into his room to check his vitals. As usual, she was professional and kind, though she kept their interactions brief. Marcus watched her work silently for a moment before finally speaking. "Hey, Sarah," he said, his voice softer than usual. She glanced at him, surprised by his tone. "Yes? I think I owe you an apology," he said, avoiding her gaze. "For what I said the other day. It was out of line, and it wasn't fair." Sarah paused, then nodded. "Thank you for saying that," she said simply, her tone neutral. Marcus hesitated, unsure if he should push further. "I overheard some of the other nurses talking about you. They said you've been through a lot but still show up here every day, saving people like me." Sarah smiled faintly. "Everyone has their battles, Mr. Hayes. Some of us just choose to fight them quietly." Her words lingered with Marcus long after she left the room. That evening, Marcus asked David to sit with him in the hospital's common area. The two had been friends long before David became his trainer, and Marcus trusted him to tell it to him straight. "I think I've been a jerk," Marcus admitted, staring at the floor. "To Sarah, to everyone. I've been so focused on my career, my image. I didn't even think about how my words or actions affect people." David nodded slowly. "You've always been confident, Marcus, but lately it's crossed into arrogance. Maybe this is life's way of reminding you what really matters." Marcus sighed. "I want to make it right. With Sarah, at least. But I don't even know where to start." "Start by showing her you're grateful," David suggested. "Actions speak louder than words." The next morning, Marcus asked the nurse at the front desk if he could leave a note for Sarah. With her help, he wrote a handwritten card and left it in the break room with a box of pastries. The note read, "Sarah, I've been thinking a lot about how I treated you when I first got here, and I realize I owe you more than an apology. You saved my life, not just in the ER, but by helping me see what really matters. Thank you for your kindness, your strength, and your dedication. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Sincerely, Marcus Hayes." When Sarah found the note during her break, she was surprised. She hadn't expected Marcus to acknowledge his behavior, let alone write such a heartfelt apology. Though she was touched, she didn't immediately respond. She wanted to see if his actions would match his words. Over the next few days, Marcus made a concerted effort to change his attitude. He treated the nurses and hospital staff with respect, thanked them for their care, and even started chatting with other patients. His transformation didn't go unnoticed. One afternoon, Sarah walked into his room with a faint smile. "I got your note," she said. Marcus looked up from the book he was reading. And I appreciate it," Sarah said. "But actions speak louder than words. Keep being kind, Marcus. That's how you show people you've changed." Marcus nodded, her words resonating deeply. "I will." As Marcus's discharge day approached, he began to reflect on what his next steps would be. The doctor had made it clear that his boxing career might be over, or at the very least, put on hold indefinitely. The thought terrified him. Boxing was all he had ever known. On his last night in the hospital, Marcus asked Sarah if she had a moment to talk. She agreed, pulling up a chair next to his bed. "I've been thinking about what you said," Marcus began. "About fighting battles quietly. I've always been about the big fights, the big moments. But I don't think I've ever done anything meaningful outside the ring." Sarah tilted her head, studying him. "You're still young, Marcus. You have plenty of time to figure out what matters to you. And sometimes the most meaningful things aren't what we expect." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "What about you? What keeps you going after everything you've been through?" Sarah smiled gently. I became a nurse because I wanted to help people. After my husband passed away, it was hard, but I realized that the best way to honor his memory was to keep doing what I loved. Helping others gives my life meaning. Her words stayed with Marcus as he prepared to leave the hospital. For the first time in years, he felt like he was standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. A few weeks after his discharge, Marcus returned to the hospital, not as a patient, but as a visitor. He had spent his time reflecting on Sarah's words and thinking about how he could make a difference. With a small bouquet of flowers in hand, Marcus walked into and found Sarah at the nurse's station. "I wanted to thank you," he said, handing her the flowers, "for saving my life and for helping me see what really matters." Sarah smiled, accepting the bouquet. "You're welcome, Marcus. I'm glad to see you're doing well." Marcus hesitated, then added, "I've been thinking about how I can give back. I'm starting a foundation to help young athletes learn about health and resilience, things I wish I'd known sooner. And it's partly because of you." Sarah's smile widened. "That's a wonderful idea, Marcus. I'm proud of you." For the first time, Marcus felt a sense of purpose beyond the boxing ring. He realized that his journey wasn't just about redemption, it was about using his platform to make a difference. As Marcus walked out of the hospital, he felt lighter than he had in years. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew he wasn't the same person he had been when he first arrived. And for that, he had Sarah to thank. Because sometimes, it takes losing everything to truly find yourself. The launch of Marcus's foundation, The Champion's Heart, marked a turning point in his life. The organization aimed to educate young athletes about physical and mental health, resilience, and the importance of life beyond sports. With his fame and connections, Marcus quickly garnered support from sponsors, fellow athletes, and even healthcare professionals, many of whom were inspired by his transformation. The first event hosted by The Champion's Heart was a free health and wellness workshop at a community center in Marcus's hometown. Dozens of kids and their families showed up, eager to hear from the boxing champion who had redefined his purpose. Marcus spoke candidly about his experience, sharing the lessons he had learned during his time in the hospital. "I thought being a champion was all about winning in the ring," Marcus told the crowd. "But I've learned that being a real champion is about how you take care of yourself and how you lift up the people around you. That's what matters most." The audience applauded, and as Marcus stepped off the stage, he noticed a familiar face in the crowd, Sarah. She had come to support him, and her presence filled Marcus with gratitude. After the event, Marcus approached Sarah, a wide grin on his face. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. Sarah shrugged playfully. "I wanted to see how my favorite patient was doing. And I have to say, I'm impressed." "Thanks to you," Marcus replied. "You're the one who set me on this path." Sarah shook her head. "You chose this path, Marcus. I just gave you a little push." Their conversation was interrupted by a young boy who tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Mr. Hayes, can I take a picture with you?" the boy asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "Of course," Marcus said, crouching down for the photo. As the boy ran off to join his friends, Marcus turned back to Sarah. "This feels right," he said. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm doing something that really matters." Sarah smiled. "You are Marcus. And I'm proud of you." Over the next year, The Champion's Heart grew rapidly, expanding its programs to include mentorship opportunities, mental health resources, and financial literacy workshops for young athletes. Marcus threw himself into the work, using his experiences to connect with others and inspire change. He also began collaborating with Sarah and other healthcare professionals to create educational materials about heart health and the risks of overexertion in sports. The initiative, dubbed Athletes for Heart Health, aimed to prevent others from experiencing the health scare that had changed Marcus's life. Through their work together, Marcus and Sarah developed a deep friendship. They often reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point, how a chance encounter in the ER had set off a chain of events that transformed both their lives. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Marcus and Sarah sat on the steps of the community center, watching the sunset. "You know," Marcus said, "I used to think my legacy would be all about boxing. Titles, trophies, and knockouts. But now, I think this is what I was meant to do." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Life has a funny way of leading us where we're supposed to be, even if it's not where we thought we'd end up. Marcus glanced at her, a smile tugging at his lips. You've been a big part of that for me. I hope you know that. Sarah chuckled. And you've been a big part of reminding me why I do what I do. So I'd say we're even. As the years went by, Marcus's foundation continued to thrive, touching thousands of lives. He received numerous awards for his contributions to the community, but what mattered most to him were the personal connections he made along the way. Whether it was mentoring a young athlete or speaking at a school, Marcus found joy in helping others discover their potential. Sarah, too, continued to make an impact. She became a sought-after speaker on resilience and caregiving, sharing her story with audiences across the country. Despite her busy schedule, she always made time to support Marcus and his foundation, their bond growing stronger with each passing year. One day, during a gala celebrating the champion's Heart's 5th anniversary, Marcus took the stage to deliver a speech. As he looked out at the audience, his gaze landed on Sarah, who was seated near the front. 5 years ago, I didn't know who I was outside the ring, Marcus began. I was lost, angry, and scared. But then, someone showed me what it means to truly fight, not with fists, but with heart. That person is Sarah Miller. The audience erupted into applause as Sarah looked up at Marcus, her eyes glistening with tears. Sarah taught me that real strength comes from helping others, from lifting people up when they need it most. And I wouldn't be standing here today without her. So, Sarah, this one's for you. As the applause subsided, Marcus stepped off the stage and walked over to Sarah, handing her a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, he said simply. Sarah smiled, her voice soft. You've come a long way, Marcus. And I'm so proud of the man you've become. Marcus grinned. I had a pretty great teacher. Together, Marcus and Sarah continued their work, driven by a shared belief in the power of compassion and resilience. And though their journeys had begun in very different places, they had found common ground in their commitment to making the world a better place, one life at a time. Because sometimes, the most unlikely encounters can lead to the most profound transformations. As the years went on, Marcus and Sarah's impact on their respective communities deepened. Their collaboration grew into a lasting partnership, with Sarah joining the Champion's Heart as a board member to oversee its health and wellness initiatives. Together, they launched new programs that addressed not only physical health but also emotional well-being, mental health education, and resilience training. One of their most ambitious projects was the creation of a traveling health clinic. Dubbed Heart of the Champion, the mobile clinic visited underserved communities, offering free checkups, nutrition workshops, and fitness classes. Sarah was instrumental in designing the clinic's programs, ensuring they were accessible and impactful. During one of their visits to a small town, Marcus and Sarah were approached by a young boy named Javier. Barefoot and shy, Javier had been standing on the outskirts of the crowd, watching as Marcus demonstrated boxing techniques to a group of kids. When Marcus noticed him, he waved Javier over. You want to give it a shot? Javier hesitated, glancing at his worn clothes and bare feet. I don't have shoes, he mumbled. Sarah knelt down, meeting Javier's eyes. Shoes don't matter, sweetheart. It's about heart. And something tells me you've got plenty of that. Encouraged by her words, Javier stepped into the makeshift ring. With Marcus's guidance, he threw his first punch and then another. His face lit up with excitement, and by the end of the session, he was beaming. Later that day, Sarah quietly arranged for Javier to receive a pair of boxing gloves and shoes, along with an invitation to join a local youth program sponsored by the Champion's Heart. For Marcus and Sarah, moments like these were what made their work worthwhile. As their programs expanded, so did their influence. Marcus and Sarah were invited to speak at conferences, serve on advisory boards, and collaborate with organizations around the world. Their work was recognized with numerous awards, but they remained grounded, always prioritizing the people they served. One day, while preparing for a joint presentation at a national health and sports summit, Marcus turned to Sarah with a thoughtful expression. You know, I never imagined my life would look like this, he said. I thought boxing was all I had. But now, I feel like I've found something so much bigger. Sarah smiled. Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? I never thought I'd be standing here either. But I think we both found our calling. Just not in the way we expected. Marcus nodded. Do you ever think about how it all started? That day in the... Sarah chuckled. All the time. If someone had told me then that you'd become one of my closest friends and a partner in this work, I wouldn't have believed them. Marcus grinned. I guess life has a funny way of turning things around. Their partnership continued to flourish, but it wasn't without its challenges. Balancing their personal lives with the demands of their work required constant effort. Sarah, who had been a single mother since losing her husband, found herself navigating a new chapter as her children grew older and left home. Meanwhile, Marcus grappled with the lingering fear of his heart condition and the possibility of its impact on his future. Through it all, they leaned on each other for support. Marcus often sought Sarah's advice when he felt overwhelmed, and Sarah found solace in Marcus's optimism and determination. Their bond, forged in the crucible of adversity, became an unshakable source of strength for them both. As the Champion's Heart celebrated its 10th anniversary, Marcus and Sarah reflected on the incredible journey they had shared. The foundation had grown into a national movement, empowering countless individuals to prioritize their health and embrace their potential. During the anniversary gala, Marcus took the stage to deliver a heartfelt speech. 10 years ago, I thought I was invincible. I thought success was measured in wins and losses. But then life threw me a curveball, and I realized that real strength isn't about what you can do alone. It's about what you can do together. He turned to Sarah, who was seated in the front row. Sarah Miller taught me that. She showed me what it means to truly care for others, to fight for something bigger than yourself. And for that, I'll always be grateful. The audience erupted into applause as Marcus stepped down and embraced Sarah, who whispered, "You're making me cry, Marcus." "Good," he said with a laugh. "You've been making me cry for years." In the years that followed, Marcus and Sarah continued to expand their reach, always looking for new ways to make a difference. Whether it was through their work, their mentorship, or their friendship, they remained a powerful force for good in the world. And though their journeys had begun in vastly different places, they had found a shared purpose in the unlikeliest of circumstances. Together, they proved that even the most unexpected connections can lead to extraordinary transformations. Because sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expect, but they're exactly the ones we need. Years after the foundation of the Champion's Heart, Marcus and Sarah became household names not only in sports and healthcare circles but also in the broader realm of community activism. Their work had touched countless lives, and their bond continued to serve as the heart of the movement. One day, Sarah received a letter from Javier, the young boy they had met during one of their mobile clinic visits. Now in his late teens, Javier had become a rising amateur boxer and was preparing to compete in a regional championship. In the letter, he wrote about how Marcus and Sarah's encouragement had changed his life. "I never thought I'd have the chance to be something more," Javier wrote. "But because of you, I do. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Sarah shared the letter with Marcus, and the two decided to surprise Javier by attending his championship match. When they arrived at the arena, Javier's face lit up with disbelief and excitement. "You're really here?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Of course we're here," Marcus said, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "We wouldn't miss it for the world. Now go out there and show them what you've got." Javier fought with determination and heart, winning the match and earning a standing ovation from the crowd. Afterward, he ran to Marcus and Sarah, tears streaming down his face. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said. Marcus smiled. "You did this, Javier. We just gave you a little push." The success of Javier and others like him became a driving force behind the next phase of the Champion's Heart. Marcus and Sarah decided to launch a mentorship program called Future Champions, which paired young athletes with professionals in sports, healthcare, and education. The goal was to provide guidance, resources, and a sense of community to kids who might otherwise feel overlooked. The program quickly gained traction, with hundreds of mentors signing up to help. Marcus personally took on a few ments, sharing his experiences and lessons learned from his own journey. Sarah, meanwhile, worked behind the scenes to ensure the program's success, coordinating resources and training sessions for mentors. One of Marcus's ments, a young girl named Mia, showed exceptional promise, not just as an athlete but as a leader. She often stayed after their sessions to ask Marcus questions about resilience, teamwork, and overcoming fear. "You've got what it takes to be a champion," Marcus told her one day. But remember, being a champion isn't just about winning. It's about how you carry yourself, how you treat others, and what you stand for. Mia nodded, her eyes full of determination. "I'll make you proud, coach." While Marcus and Sarah's professional lives thrived, they also found time to reflect on their personal growth. For Sarah, this meant stepping out of her comfort zone and exploring new opportunities. She began writing a memoir, sharing her journey from losing her husband to becoming a nurse and finding her purpose through her work with Marcus. The memoir, titled Strength in the Quiet, became a bestseller, resonating with readers who saw themselves in Sarah's story of resilience and compassion. In interviews, Sarah often spoke about the importance of embracing vulnerability and finding strength in community. "I never set out to be anyone's hero," she said during a book tour. "But I've learned that sometimes, the greatest acts of courage are the ones we don't even realize we're making." Marcus, too, found himself stepping into new roles. He was invited to join the board of a national sports organization, where he advocated for better health and safety standards for athletes. He also began speaking at schools, using his platform to inspire kids to dream big and persevere through challenges. But despite his growing responsibilities, Marcus never forgot the people who had been there for him when he needed them most, especially Sarah. Their friendship remained a constant in his life, grounding him and reminding him of the journey they had shared. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline after a long day of meetings, Marcus turned to Sarah with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "I used to think life was all about the big wins. But now I realize it's the little moments that matter most. Like this." Sarah smiled. "It's funny how life works, isn't it? Neither of us could have predicted we'd end up here." Marcus chuckled. "Yeah, but I wouldn't change a thing. You've been my rock through all of this, Sarah. I don't think I've ever told you how much that means to me." Sarah's smile softened. "You don't have to say it, Marcus. I already know." As the years passed, Marcus and Sarah's legacy continued to grow. The Champion's Heart expanded internationally, bringing its programs to communities around the world. The mobile clinic initiative, Heart of the Champion, was recognized as a model for accessible healthcare, and the mentorship program produced countless success stories. At a global summit on community health and resilience, Marcus and Sarah were honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for their contributions. As they took the stage together, the audience erupted into applause, a testament to the impact they had made. In his acceptance speech, Marcus spoke from the heart. "This journey has taught me that real strength isn't about how hard you hit, it's about how much you care. It's about lifting others up and making a difference, no matter how small. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without Sarah, who showed me what it means to fight with heart." The applause was deafening as Sarah took the microphone. "Marcus and I have always said that we're just two people trying to make a difference. But the truth is, none of this would be possible without the people we've met along the way. The kids, the families, the mentors, the communities. You're the real champions." As they left the stage, Marcus and Sarah shared a quiet moment together. "We've come a long way," Marcus said, his voice filled with gratitude. Sarah nodded. "And we've still got a lot left to do." Marcus grinned. "I wouldn't want it any other way." Together, they walked into the future, ready to continue their work and prove that even the smallest acts of kindness can spark a legacy of transformation. As Marcus and Sarah continued their work, their reach extended far beyond what they had ever imagined. The Champion's Heart became a global symbol of resilience and the power of human connection. Their programs were replicated in dozens of countries, and their story inspired documentaries, books, and even a feature film. But despite the growing recognition, Marcus and Sarah never lost sight of the personal connections that made their work meaningful. They continued to visit communities, mentor young people, and build relationships with the individuals whose lives they touched. One day, while visiting a rural village as part of the Heart of the Champion initiative, Marcus met a young boy named Luis. At just 10 years old, Luis had a natural talent for boxing but lacked the resources to pursue his passion. His family struggled to make ends meet, and the thought of buying gloves or paying for lessons was out of the question. Marcus watched as Luis shadowboxed in a corner, his movements precise and fluid. "You've got some serious skills, kid," Marcus said, approaching him. Luis looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "You think so?" "I know so," Marcus replied. "But tell me, what's your dream?" Luis hesitated, then said, "I want to be a champion like you. But I don't think I can." "Why not?" Marcus asked. Luis glanced at his worn shoes and tattered clothes. "Because we don't have much. My mom says we can't afford to dream." Marcus knelt down, placing a hand on Luis's shoulder. "Dreams don't cost anything, Luis. And if you're willing to work hard, I'll make sure you have the chance to chase yours." True to his word, Marcus arranged for Luis to receive a scholarship through the Champion's Heart. The scholarship covered boxing lessons, equipment, and school supplies, ensuring that Luis could focus on his training and education. Over the years, Marcus kept in touch with Luis, mentoring him and watching proudly as he grew into a skilled and confident young man. By the time Luis turned 18, he had won several regional championships and was preparing for his first national competition. On the day of the match, Marcus and Sarah sat ringside, cheering him on. Luis fought with determination and heart, earning a hard-fought victory that brought the crowd to its feet. As he raised his fists in triumph, he looked over at Marcus and Sarah, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he mouthed. Marcus nodded, his own eyes glistening. "You did this, kid." Meanwhile, Sarah continued to inspire others through her work and writing. Her memoir, Strength in the Quiet, had become a staple in nursing schools and leadership programs, and she was often invited to speak at conferences and events. But despite her busy schedule, Sarah remained deeply involved in the day-to-day operations of the Champion's Heart, ensuring that its programs stayed true to their mission. One of Sarah's proudest moments came when she was invited to deliver the commencement speech at her alma mater's nursing school. Standing before a crowd of eager graduates, she shared the lessons she had learned over her career. "Compassion is the foundation of everything we do," Sarah said. "It's not just about treating patients or solving problems. It's about seeing the humanity in each person we meet and choosing to make a difference. That's what makes us strong." Her words resonated deeply with the audience, and after the ceremony, several graduates approached her to express their gratitude. "You've shown us what it means to truly care," one student said. "Thank you for being such an incredible role model." Sarah smiled, her heart full. "You're the future of this profession. And I have no doubt you'll do amazing things." As Marcus and Sarah entered the next phase of their lives, they began to think about how to ensure the sustainability of their work. They established an endowment for the Champion's Heart, securing funding for its programs for generations to come. They also worked to identify and mentor the next generation of leaders who would carry the organization forward. Among these leaders was Mia, Marcus's former mentee. Now in her mid-20s, Mia had become a professional boxer and an advocate for mental health awareness. She often credited Marcus and Sarah with shaping her into the person she was. "They taught me that being a champion isn't about the titles you win, it's about the lives you touch," Mia said during an interview. "And I hope to carry that lesson with me every day." Mia's passion and dedication made her the perfect choice to take on a leadership role within the Champion's Heart. Under her guidance, the organization continued to grow and evolve, reaching new heights while staying true to its mission. One evening, as Marcus and Sarah sat on a quiet beach watching the waves, they reflected on their journey. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Marcus asked, his voice thoughtful. "From that hospital room to all of this?" Sarah chuckled. "All the time. It's been an incredible ride, hasn't it?" Marcus nodded. "More than I could have ever imagined. And I couldn't have done it without you." Sarah smiled, her eyes warm. "And I couldn't have done it without you." They sat in comfortable silence, the sound of the waves a soothing backdrop to their thoughts. Though their journey was far from over, they knew they had created something lasting. Something that would continue to make a difference long after they were gone. Because at the heart of their work was a simple but powerful truth. When we lift each other up, we create a legacy that transcends time. As the years went by, Marcus and Sarah watched their shared vision take root in ways they had never imagined. Their lives became intertwined with the people they had touched, the communities they had built, and the causes they had championed. But even as they saw the fruits of their labor, they remained deeply involved, determined to keep growing and adapting to meet the ever-changing needs of the world. One of their most ambitious projects was the creation of a training institute, the Champions Academy. Located in Marcus's hometown, the academy was designed to be a hub for young leaders, blending athletics, education, and mentorship. The state-of-the-art campus offered everything from boxing facilities to classrooms, wellness programs, and career guidance. "This isn't just about training champions in the ring," Marcus said at the academy's grand opening. "It's about training champions in life, people who will go out into the world and make it better." Sarah stood beside him, her heart swelling with pride. "And we're here to remind them that strength comes in many forms: physical, emotional, and most importantly, compassionate." The academy quickly became a beacon of hope for young people, many of whom came from challenging circumstances. Marcus and Sarah were regular fixtures on campus, mentoring students and sharing their wisdom. Their presence inspired countless young leaders, who saw in them the power of resilience and the importance of giving back. Among the academy's first class of students was a young woman named Tasha. A gifted athlete with a sharp mind, Tasha had grown up in foster care and faced numerous obstacles throughout her life. When she joined the academy, she was quiet and guarded, unsure of her place in the world. Sarah noticed Tasha's hesitation and made a point to connect with her. Over time, Tasha opened up, sharing her dreams of becoming a social worker to help kids like herself. "You have so much to give, Tasha," Sarah said during one of their conversations. "And you've already overcome so much. Use that strength to make a difference." With Sarah's guidance and Marcus's encouragement, Tasha began to thrive. She excelled in her studies, became a leader among her peers, and started working on a project to provide mentorship programs for foster youth. By the time she graduated, Tasha was not only ready to pursue her dreams, she was ready to change the world. As their work expanded, Marcus and Sarah began to receive recognition on a global scale. They were invited to international summits, awarded honorary degrees, and even recognized with humanitarian awards for their contributions to society. But through it all, they remained humble, always redirecting the focus back to the people they served. During one particularly high-profile event, Marcus was asked about his greatest achievement. He thought for a moment before answering. "It's not the trophies or the titles," he said. "It's the people. Watching someone believe in themselves for the first time, seeing lives transformed, that's what I'm most proud of." Sarah, standing beside him, nodded. "It's about the connections we make. Every life we touch, every person who goes on to help others. That's the real legacy." In their personal lives, Marcus and Sarah continued to find joy and purpose. Marcus, now in his 50s, had embraced his role as a mentor and advocate, but he also made time to reconnect with his family and old friends. Sarah, meanwhile, had built a close-knit community around her, cherishing the bonds she had formed with her children, her colleagues, and Marcus. One evening, while attending a reunion for alumni of the Champion's Heart, Marcus and Sarah were approached by a group of young adults. They were former participants in the Foundation's programs, now thriving in their respective careers. "You changed our lives," one of them said, speaking for the group. "Because of you, we believed in ourselves when no one else did." Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look, their hearts full. "You changed your own lives," Marcus said. "We just gave you a little nudge." As the years turned into decades, Marcus and Sarah began to think about the future of their work. They knew they couldn't do it forever, but they also knew their legacy would live on through the people they had inspired. To ensure that their vision continued, they established the Marcus and Sarah Foundation, a trust dedicated to funding programs that aligned with their mission. They also worked to document their journey, creating resources and materials that future leaders could use to carry their work forward. In their final years, Marcus and Sarah remained active, albeit at a slower pace. They spent more time reflecting on the journey they had shared, grateful for the twists and turns that had brought them together. One quiet afternoon, as they sat on a porch overlooking the academy they had built, Marcus turned to Sarah with a smile. Do you ever think about how it all started? That hospital room, me being a total jerk. Sarah laughed, her eyes sparkling. All the time. And look at us now. Who would have thought? Marcus nodded, his expression thoughtful. I think the best things in life come from the unexpected. You've taught me that. And you've taught me that people can surprise you, Sarah replied. Even boxers who think they're invincible. They shared a laugh, the kind that comes from years of friendship, respect, and shared purpose. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the world they had helped shape, they knew they had done something extraordinary. Because in lifting others up, they had discovered the true meaning of strength and created a legacy that would endure for generations to come. As the Marcus and Sarah Foundation gained momentum, its programs began to touch lives in ways neither of them could have imagined. The foundation's focus extended far beyond sports and healthcare. It funded scholarships, supported community development, and provided resources for marginalized groups worldwide. It became a living testament to the idea that compassion and resilience could create transformative change. One of the foundation's most ambitious initiatives was the Global Resilience Network, a partnership with international organizations to address systemic barriers to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. The network built schools, clinics, and training centers in underserved areas, using the lessons Marcus and Sarah had learned through their work to guide their approach. The cornerstone of the network was a center in a small African village that had long struggled with access to basic resources. Named the Heart of the Champion Center, the facility offered education, vocational training, and healthcare services. During the center's dedication ceremony, Marcus and Sarah were honored guests. As they walked through the bustling center, they saw children learning in classrooms, women training in skilled trades, and families receiving much-needed medical care. It was a vision of the future they had dreamed of, a place where people could thrive and build brighter lives. This is what it's all about, Marcus said, his voice filled with emotion. Giving people the tools to write their own stories. Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. It's incredible to see how far this has come. And to think it all started with a chance encounter. Back in the United States, Marcus and Sarah's lives remained intertwined with the communities they had helped build. The Champions Academy became a hub for annual reunions, where alumni returned to share their successes and give back to the next generation of students. At one such reunion, Mia, Marcus's former mentee and now a professional boxer and mental health advocate, addressed the crowd. Her words brought Marcus and Sarah to tears. When I first came here, I didn't believe I was good enough, Mia said. But Marcus and Sarah saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. They taught me that being a champion isn't about titles, it's about heart. And that lesson has carried me through every challenge I've faced. The crowd erupted into applause, and as Mia stepped off the stage, she embraced Marcus and Sarah. Thank you, she said. For everything. You've earned every bit of your success, Marcus replied. We're just proud to have been part of your journey. As the years passed, Marcus and Sarah began to reflect more on the legacy they would leave behind. They collaborated on a book, The Strength of Two, A Journey of Compassion and Change, which chronicled their story and the lessons they had learned along the way. The book became a bestseller, inspiring readers around the world to take action in their own communities. In one of the book's most memorable passages, Sarah wrote, "Life has a way of connecting us in unexpected ways. When I first met Marcus, I never could have imagined the journey we would share. But through every challenge, every triumph, I've learned that the greatest strength comes from the people we lift up, and the people who lift us up in return." Marcus added, "I thought my legacy would be about what I achieved in the ring. But the truth is, my greatest victories have been outside it. Watching lives change, seeing people find their strength, and knowing that together, we've made a difference." In their later years, Marcus and Sarah stepped back from the day-to-day operations of their foundation, entrusting its leadership to the next generation. Mia took on the role of executive director, while Tasha, now a renowned social worker and advocate, became the director of community outreach. Both women carried forward the values and vision that Marcus and Sarah had instilled in them. One evening, as Marcus and Sarah sat on a bench overlooking the bustling campus of the Champions Academy, they marveled at how far their work had come. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things had gone differently? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled. All the time. But I think we were meant to meet that day in the ER. Sometimes life has a way of putting you exactly where you need to be. Marcus nodded. I used to think my biggest fight was in the ring. But now I know it was here with you building all of this. And we won, Sarah said softly. Yeah, Marcus agreed, a smile spreading across his face. We did. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the academy, Marcus and Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and created something far greater than either of them could have imagined alone. Their story wasn't just about their work, it was about the power of human connection, the strength of resilience, and the belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark a legacy of transformation. And though their time in the spotlight was drawing to a close, their impact would endure for generations to come. Because at the heart of their journey was a simple truth: when we come together to lift each other up, there's nothing we can't achieve. As Marcus and Sarah approached their twilight years, the ripples of their work continued to spread across the world. What began as a humble initiative born from a chance meeting in a hospital had grown into a global movement. The Marcus and Sarah Foundation was now synonymous with hope, resilience, and transformation. In their quiet moments, the two often reflected on the countless lives they had touched. The stories of success, perseverance, and redemption from those they had helped filled their hearts with pride. But they also knew that the true measure of their work wasn't just in the numbers. It was in the human connections they had fostered. One day, Sarah received a letter from a small village in Southeast Asia where the foundation had established a clinic years earlier. The letter was from a young doctor named An, who had grown up in the village and benefited from the education and healthcare programs initiated by the foundation. An's words brought tears to Sarah's eyes. Because of you, I had the chance to dream. And because of those dreams, I became the first doctor in my family and returned to serve my community. You didn't just change my life, you changed the lives of everyone I've been able to help. Thank you for believing in people like me. Sarah shared the letter with Marcus, who smiled as he read it. It's moments like this that remind me why we started all of this, he said, and why we have to keep going. In their later years, Marcus and Sarah became ambassadors for compassion and justice. They were invited to speak at international forums, sharing their story with leaders, activists, and young people. Their message was always the same, that change begins with one small act of kindness, and that resilience and hope could overcome even the greatest challenges. During one of these events, held at the United Nations, Marcus gave a powerful speech that resonated deeply with the audience. I used to think my strength was in my fists, in my ability to fight and win, Marcus said, his voice steady and heartfelt. But the truth is, my greatest strength came when I learned to care. When I learned to listen, to lift others up, and to fight for something bigger than myself. That's what true champions do, they fight for each other. The standing ovation that followed was a testament to the universal appeal of Marcus and Sarah's message. As they left the stage, they were approached by a group of young leaders from various countries who wanted to learn more about their work. You've inspired us to take action in our own communities, one of them said. We want to be part of the change you've started. Marcus and Sarah smiled, their hearts full. The change isn't ours, Sarah said. It belongs to all of us. And it's people like you who will carry it forward. As time went on, Marcus and Sarah found themselves transitioning into quieter roles. They spent more time mentoring, writing, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. Marcus took up gardening, finding peace in nurturing the earth, while Sarah rediscovered her love of painting, creating vibrant pieces that reflected the beauty of the world she had helped shape. Despite slowing down, they remained deeply connected to the work of the foundation. They continued to attend events, meet with alumni, and provide guidance to the next generation of leaders. Their presence was a source of inspiration, a reminder of the power of resilience and the impact of compassion. One of their final public appearances was at the 25th anniversary of the Champion's Heart. The event was a grand celebration, attended by thousands of people whose lives had been touched by Marcus and Sarah's work. As they took the stage together, the audience erupted into applause, a wave of love and gratitude that brought tears to their eyes. Marcus spoke first, his voice filled with emotion. 25 years ago, I was lost. I thought my life was over. But then, in a moment I'll never forget, someone showed me what it means to care, to fight for others, to believe in something bigger than myself. That someone was Sarah Miller. He turned to Sarah, his eyes glistening. Sarah, you've been my friend, my partner, and my rock. None of this would have been possible without you. The crowd applauded as Marcus stepped aside, allowing Sarah to speak. She took a deep breath, her heart full of gratitude. When Marcus and I started this journey, we had no idea where it would take us, Sarah said. But what we learned along the way is that the greatest gift we can give each other is hope. Hope that things can get better, hope that we can make a difference, and hope that together we can create a better world. She paused, her voice trembling with emotion. Thank you for believing in us, and thank you for carrying this work forward. You are the champions now, and we couldn't be prouder. The audience rose to their feet, their cheers echoing through the hall. Marcus and Sarah stood side by side, their hands clasped, their hearts full. In the years that followed, Marcus and Sarah remained beloved figures, their legacy etched in the lives of those they had inspired. And though their roles gradually diminished, their impact continued to grow, carried forward by the people who had been touched by their kindness and vision. When the time came for Marcus and Sarah to step away entirely, they did so with grace and peace. They had built something enduring, something that would continue to change lives long after they were gone. And as they spent their final years reflecting on the journey they had shared, they found comfort in knowing that their story wasn't just theirs, it belonged to everyone who believed in the power of compassion, resilience, and hope. Because at the heart of it all was a simple truth: when we come together to lift each other up, we create a legacy that lasts forever.